It was a government experiment gone wildly wrong. They lost control of it, and now the infestation is slowly creeping its way across America. I'm sure the vast majority of people in my audience have this infestation in their homes, and they don't even know about it. It's already too late, and they're never going to give you the details. We do have the details, however, over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. I know the vast majority of the videos over there I have advertised at the $1 level. This will be one of the 4 videos over there at the $5 level. Now, once again, $5 level a month is not required to be a member of the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. Only one. It's even less if you sign up for an entire year. There's 280 videos. This will be the 4th, however, that is reserved solely for those at the $5 level. It is that controversial. It's something everybody has experienced and they don't even know it yet. And I thought this particular holiday that we are going through right now, that we are celebrating, would be a great example of how they use things like this to keep the infestation moving, so to speak. Now, what's the psyop? What's the psychological operation of Independence Day? Well, I think many can see that we no longer have an independent country. We have a country full of people who are solely dependent on the government. That's the idea of psychological operations. Operate right out in the middle of everyone and have no one recognize what you're doing. Be right out in the open. And that's where you'll hide, and you'll be virtually invisible. People talk about the Founding Fathers and how the idea of this country was so different. Why don't we just call them by the correct names, the correct 21st century names? What were they? Well, clearly, they were monarchophobes. Because what do we know? We know that an elected legislature can trample a man's rights just as easily as a king can. So if they chose to have an elected legislature, as opposed to having a king and a queen, all it shows is an irrational fear of living under a king and queen or living under a monarchy. Because one man can make as many bad and selfish decisions as a dozen or 2 dozen or 100 or 300 men can. Is that not the case? We have a ruling class now, don't we? Instead of one king, we just have hundreds in a ruling class. So clearly, it was just a phobia. Phobia, by definition, irrational fear of object or situation. A phobia can range from something as small as triskaidekaphobia, which is fear of number 13, to something as big as phangophobia, which I've never heard of, fear of daylight or sunshine. You see, there's a certain agenda out there that has been wildly successful at getting their enemies to cower back and to run away and to retreat by just threatening to label them with a phobia. Or even better, they get them to explain, oh, no, I'm not a phobe. I'm perfectly okay with this, that, and the other that they're really not okay with, but they're so afraid of being labeled a phobe because they've controlled language. This is the part that's going to blow your mind. If you pay attention to any part of this video, pay attention to this part. The words common and normal do not mean the same thing. And they have used this tactic along with the phobia tactic to win virtually every time they're challenged. Let me give you an example. How many of you, show of hands out there, especially those of you down here in Florida, have walked out in the kitchen or in the bathroom or someplace and seen a palmetto bug, basically a giant cockroach down here in Florida, skitter across the floor? Now, I'm sure no matter where you're at, you've probably had some example of an activity like this, experience like this. Is that common? Sure. It's very common. In fact, there's entire businesses out there that are stood up just to deal with this. But is it normal to ignore it and do nothing about it? Well, bugs are part of God's creation. If God didn't want that bug there, he wouldn't be there. So who are you to interfere with God's plan? You see the difference between common and normal? Sure, it's common to encounter occasionally a palmetto bug inside a home. Does that mean it's okay to go live amongst the bugs in the woods? No. That's why people created homes, so that we didn't have to live amongst the creepy crawlies. because it was unhealthy and it was unsanitary. Now, does that make us all entomophobes? Do we all have entomophobia because we all have a fear of bugs because we don't want bugs crawling around in our beds and bugs crawling around in our food, in our kitchen, our house, everywhere? No. Do we? I guess you could say we are, because we're sane, rational people. We are afraid. Pay attention. We are afraid of the ultimate outcome of allowing insects to run around in our lives and do things that, insects do all over everything. It's unsanitary, it's unhealthy, and it's a horrible environment to exist in. Are insects common? Yes. Is it normal to live amongst them? No. Now, a different example. You're out fishing, and all of a sudden one of these guys crawls out of the water down here in the south, I guess. Do you say, well, that's just a normal part of the environment, and, I don't want to interfere, so I'm just going to stand here and continue fishing? Hell no. You're smart, you're going to pick up your stuff, or leave it, and you're going to get the heck out of the way. Now, is the alligator normal in his environment? Sure. It's common, very normal for him to be in the environment where he is. Would it be normal because that's common and normal for you to sit there and do nothing and let him come rip your leg off? No. Now, here's the key. Do we try to exterminate all alligators everywhere so that we don't have to worry about it? No. See, just like we don't try to exterminate all bugs everywhere because they have a role, we just keep them out of our lives. Does that make us herpetophobes? Because we don't go wandering around swamps after dark in South? Well, yeah, I guess it does kind of make us herpetophobes. Why? Because that's the smart, rational, sane thing to be. Because that animal can cause you a great deal of harm, if not end your life. And you avoid going where you know they are and where their hunting grounds are. And if they happen to cross paths with you, you give them a wide berth. But that doesn't mean we go exterminate them, do we? You see, they tried that in this country, and it almost worked. Another example. Oh, the cute little mouse. He seems so harmless. If you saw one of these running around your kitchen, would that be normal? Okay. Yeah, once in a while you get a mouse. Would it be normal for you to just allow one mouse, then two mouse, then six mouse, then 10 mice? No. That would be absolutely abnormal. Mice carry diseases. They carry plagues. They carry the fleas. They carry the Black Death. All sorts of things, reasons to get rid of the cute little mouse. Does that make you a serophobe? Well, yeah, I guess it would. Because what are you afraid of? You're afraid of the ultimate outcome. See, that's the idea here. The ultimate outcome. Is that mouse right there at that moment in time going to be able to cause you harm? No. Not hurting a thing. But long term, the mouse is harmless now. But if you let it go and you let it fester, it will turn your house into an unlivable place. So while you're not necessarily afraid of the mouse, you're afraid of what the eventuality of not doing something about it will lead to. Another final example here, maybe not final. We have a couple more. Is it normal to gain weight as you get older? It sure is. Absolutely. It's almost unavoidable sometimes. Now, it's common. There are gyms everywhere. There are weight loss programs everywhere. But if it becomes a health issue, a problem, is it normal to not do anything about it? No. If you're having all sorts of problems, especially if it's affecting your marriage, your intimate life, do you do something about it? Does that make you a fat phobe? Well, maybe it does. If you're not necessarily afraid of how you look or the fact that you got to buy bigger clothes, but you're afraid of the ultimate outcome, of the long-term outcome, the years it's going to take off your life. You see, there are some phobias out there that are good, that you're not supposed to coexist with. You're not supposed to. Are they common? Are they normal? Well, it depends on your definition of the words. The occurrence is common, yes. Is it normal to do nothing about it? No. And this is outlined in the Bible. Come out from among them. Come out from among the roaches, amongst the mice. Don't go wandering around with alligators everywhere and behaviors that cause you bad health. Come out from among them and be ye separate, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. This is Corinthians, this is Revelation. Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. Final example, and this is the most bizarre thing of all. It's, I guess, the phobia. People look at this and go, wow, what an amazing view. People say that acrophobia, the fear of heights, is irrational. No, it's not. No, it's not. Your brain realizes, hey, we could fall a really long way. Something could happen, gust of wind, lose your footing, and if we fall that far, we're done. But look at this. Acrophobia, like any other irrational fear, impairs the quality of your life. Can it be cured? Why in the world would you want to train your brain to keep you from doing things that are ridiculously dangerous? You see, that's the real key here. If there's a certain agenda out there that wants to call me that agenda-ophobe, I accept it. I accept it because I know what the long-term ramifications are for the culture. For our culture, I know what's coming. It's been done before. It's the difference between common and normal. Is that one little palmetto bug causing you any harm at that moment in time in your house? No. But if you don't do something about it, it will. Could this guy cause you harm? You darn right it could. So what do? You avoid all situations where you could become a victim. I mean, does that mean you never go fishing ever again? No, but you keep your eyes open, you see one, and you leave immediately. You don't try to make friends with the gators. They don't have the ability to deal with it. Same thing with mice. See one mouse, see two mice. Are they going to harm you? Are 3 or 4 or 5, 6 mice going to directly harm you physically? No. But letting them live in your house will. Is it abnormal that mice show up in houses? No. But it's abnormal to not do anything about it. Same thing with gaining weight. See, fat phobe, serophobe, or pedophobe, whatever you want to call it with the fear. You know, it's as ridiculous as this whole idea of monarchophobe. You say they knew long term, or at least they believed long term, that things were not going to get any better living under a king, whether it was the King of France, the King of England, the King of Spain, it didn't matter. They wanted to find a new way. But unfortunately, what we've done is we've just returned to the same old way of doing things. Instead of having one person make decisions that are tyrannical, now we have legislatures that do it. Tyranny is tyranny. You see, history doesn't talk about the good kings. See, this is, of course, from the Tudors, this is King Henry VIII. People love to focus on the bad ones, like King Henry VIII, King George, and there were others that were bad kings. But there were a great many good and benevolent and wonderful kings and queens that ruled judiciously and that their people were blessed to have. But of course, they don't make the history books. They're in the history books, but they don't make the, maybe History Channel specials. They don't talk about the good ones. See, just like we've had good leaders in the past in this country. It's not the idea. It's one way or the other. If you have a good and decent and moral king, it's way better than a corrupt legislature, is it not? Let me say that again. If you had a good and decent and moral and righteous and Christian king who was doing the very best that he could to follow what he believed the scriptures were teaching, would you rather live under that than under a legislature that you technically mob-ruled, democratically elected, that were wildly, insanely immoral and didn't care about the people and were only interested in lining their pockets? See, voting isn't more moral than a monarchy. And that's really the psyop. That's the psychological operation of it all. See, there's people out there that want you to believe that it is more moral to have a system where everybody votes and everybody gets a democratic say in who leads. That's absolutely not more moral. If all of the choices are immoral men, absolutely not. That's not the case. It's just a matter of phobia. What are you afraid of? Anyway, I will leave it there. But once again, the fourth installment at the $5 level. If you can afford $5 a month, God bless you. I would very much appreciate it. It would make such a huge difference in my life. You have no idea. You really don't. And for those of you who have joined us at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, thank you. God bless you every day for what you do. I just don't have eloquent enough words to say thank you. I'm humbled. I very, very much appreciate it. I hope everyone enjoys their holiday, enjoys their fireworks, but also does it in an informed way. So, once again, it's a brand new video that we've put up over there. It's only been up for a couple hours. So, it's the beginning of the month. It's a great time to join. I hope everyone out there is safe with celebrations and everything that's going on. Better safe than sorry always. God bless. Have a great week. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.